You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Have you ever just sat and wondered how much money Taylor Swift makes per performance? She's been touring the world for I don't know how long. We know that she's, maybe worth $2 billion now or something like that. She's worth a lot of money. Have you ever wondered about how much she makes per concert? I actually have. And I'm glad someone out there did the calculation so we could figure out how much she makes per performance. Tuala, do you have any idea or want to hazard a guess?
I mean, looking at how much she brought in from just one show out here in LA, it's got to be at least over 10 million per show. I'm going to say 10 to 15 million per show.
Stefan? 10 million per show.
10, yeah, I would say 8.
8 million per show. Okay. 8 million, 10 million. Let's see what the right answer is. Reporting from Forbes estimates that in the initial North American leg of the tour, Taylor Swift pocketed about $13.6 million per show. Per show. 3 hours of singing, dancing, and shaking it off. $13 million per show. To put that in some sort of perspective, George Clooney, Brad Pitt, both made $35 million each for the movie The Wolves. $35 million. That was for one movie. That's about maybe 6 weeks of work, I'm guessing, right? I don't know how long it took, but let's say it was 6 weeks of shooting the movie. This is $13.6 million for about 3 hours. She probably has an opening act, and she performs maybe a good, solid 90 minutes. I'm guessing?
A little more.
2 hours?
No,
okay.
She's on for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Oh, okay, 3 hours then. She works a whole 3 hours for $13.6 million. Not that she didn't earn it. She has to create the music and build her stature to a point that people want to see her all around the world in these huge stadium venues. She gets all the credit. She gets all the money. $13.6 million. And that is not including any of the other stuff, like when you're hearing merchandise, when she's her music is being played on the radio, all that kind of stuff. Not including any of that. Just 13.6 million because she's Taylor Swift and she's singing for 3 hours.
It's more than it's just she's Taylor Swift and she's singing for 3 hours, because as one of the executive producers for this show, the one who is chiefly responsible for hiring a lot of these individuals, hiring the trucking companies to carry the sets across country, hiring the dancers, hiring all the staff to work the Taylor Swift on-site parties and all of that. She has her hands in all of that, which is why she gets the lion's share. That's why I respect her hustle more so than a lot of other artists who are just performing. Mm-hmm. You know, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, they're a different generation of artists who are actually hands-on producing the show, not just getting up there singing and dancing and grooving. They are hiring, working with the stage crew, making sure they're getting out of there on time so they're not going over because they respect union houses. This is a different animal. And as someone who has put on a show, I can only imagine how much harder it is, not just putting on the show, but being in charge of entertaining and providing that draw for the show. She absolutely deserves every bit of that.
Oh, I don't disagree with any of that. 13.6 million per show, and she just wrapped up a 149 date tour. Or I should say she will be wrapping it up in December. And at that point, she will have grossed more than $4 billion. $4 billion. That's greater than the GDP of many small countries.
Yeah. Yeah.
$4 billion.
And just think, that's her money. That's different from the money that's brought into the show, period, because she does have to pay all of the people she hires first. So she's getting 13 herself. It's different than, say, when you have an artist who is paid $13 million to do a show and they may walk away with $3 million because they have to pay everyone out first.
Yep.
There is a difference with how her money is calculated in the purse she brings in.
I don't understand why she gets so much hate. Yes, she has endorsed Kamala Harris, and I know that we're in a politically fractured time. But Taylor Swift really doesn't do anything which is objectionable. Honestly, it's not like she's getting in trouble in a criminal sense. She donated $5 million for hurricane relief. Her boyfriend happens to be a football player and she really supports him. I don't get the hate. I don't understand it because there's so many other people we could be mad at for worse things.
I don't know what the quote is, but it's like popularity breeds hate because all the hate that Tom Brady got. And I mean, he wasn't all that great of a person, but in general, people hated him just because he was so good.
Well, there were some times where he had Deflategate. Yeah. And there was the tuck rule. He got some preferential treatment, and I thought he was cheating. And I don't like anything from New England, so there's that.
There is that.
Yeah,
Taylor Swift. I do lend a lot of the hate that she's getting to the fact that we do have a segment in society, a largely male segment of society that absolutely despise women. They despise successful women,
definitely.
And they seek to tear down anything that a woman does. I mean, the number of things that we have seen that are headed up and led by women that just get so much hate, sight unseen, doesn't even matter. Who did it? I hate it. It's a woman. Fire them all. I hate them all.
A woman directed it, or a woman started in it, or the woman is the lead in it.
Woman takes over. There was one woman, I can't remember her name, but she took over Universal. And I remember reading some of the press, and it was like, the company is going to go to hell now that such and such took over. And I'm like, she's got a highly successful track record. Like, you all are writing articles and talking bad about the company. You don't realize that most of the success that Universal Pictures has had has been because of her. What are we talking about?
And going back to Taylor Swift, am I a Taylor Swift music fan? No. I think I can name 3 Taylor Swift songs. Probably more if you played them and said, this is Taylor Swift. I'll say, oh, okay, then I know another one. But I don't know her music all that well. I'm not a fan of her music. I don't think she's an exceptional singer, but I cannot hate the hustle, and I can admire this empire that she's created, largely writing most of her music, being in control of her business. And as far as I can tell, for the most part, being a pretty decent role model, because in this business, we talk about the music business all the time. She could have done far worse for herself, or far worse could have been done to her. And from what I can tell, she's largely avoided all the trappings or the pitfalls of music. So if someone's going to get $13.6 million per show, might as well be Taylor Swift as far as I'm concerned. It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. We are live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And look out, Disney, you might have some competition. Universal Epic Universe is going to open in Florida in May of 2025. We'll tell you all about that next.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Later with Mo Kelly on KFI AM 640.
Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Universal has announced the spring opening date for the Epic Universe theme park. Dubbed Universal Destinations and Experiences' most ambitious theme park, Epic Universe will have 50 immersive experiences and 5 themed worlds. Celestial Park, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, Super Nintendo World, How to Train Your Dragon, Isle of Berk, and Dark Universe. and it's supposed to open at Universal Orlando Resort on May 22nd of next year. Sitting at the end of the park will be new Universal Helios Grand Hotel, which is a 500-room property, includes scenic views of Epic Universe and a dedicated entrance into the park. Annual pass holders can get their hands on single-day Epic Universe tickets beginning next Thursday, the 24th, before they go on sale to the general public. And it doesn't say, oh, here we go. 3-day packages that include 1 day at Epic Universe will range from $352 to $521, depending on the dates. We talked about Disney and their Lightning Pass yesterday and how, my word, expensive that is. Theme parks seemingly are going all in on these passes, all in on these attractions, and they're trying to get as much money out of us as possible in a single day. I have never been drawn to Universal Studios, no disrespect. It's just the types of attractions there don't mean as much to me. Like, we would go to Universal Studios for one of our Christmas parties, and after like 45 minutes to an hour, it's like, okay, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I can ride the tram ride every 10, 20 years or so if there's something new on it, but there's not a lot for me. And when I bring my sons or nephew, there's not a lot for them. It's not like they want to be there.
My kids have annual passes to Universal Studios, right? And they want to go once in a blue moon, and it's like a 10, 15-minute drive. It's literally not far away. They're going to go to the Halloween horror things, and that's about it. It's like, but it's, the passes were almost a waste, and they're 13 and 18, or 14 and 18, I'm sorry. It's tough, and I don't hear nothing that you read, because I'm like, you said something about Nintendo World and Harry Potter World. And
yeah, it's Super Nintendo World, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. These are big properties, but I don't know if they translate to an amusement park. And I said the same thing about the Avengers, so it's not like I'm just hating on Universal. I don't see the crossover appeal.
Is there monster stuff?
Not in this listing.
See, I got to tell you, when I was writing Law and Order games and I was working at the NBC Universal building, I was so thrilled with all that stuff. I was thrilled that I got to park in the Frankenstein lot. I was thrilled when I got to go to the commissary and there were the old movie posters on the wall. I love all that stuff. And it seems, especially now, it seems like that's what they should really been.
Well, that was their calling card, because you got to see the backlot, you got to see the behind the scenes of the movies in the way that Disney did not or could not.
Yeah,
and I guess that they're turning into more of a Disney style theme park where you have their movie attractions and then they turn them into theme park attractions. I get it; they own the IP. Why not? It's a Universal property. Put it in the theme park. In fact, let's create a brand new theme park of our new properties. I get all that. I don't know where the audience is supposed to come from.
Everybody loves the old Universal monsters. I mean, to the point that they're almost kind of kid-friendly and have been for most of our lives, I think. What do you got? Let's run down the list. You got Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Invisible Man, Creature from the Black Lagoon.
This generation knows about the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Everybody does. Everybody.
This generation.
You don't think everybody does?
I don't know if it's a reason for, let's say, Tuala's kids, 14 and 18, to go to an amusement park.
If they know that Guillermo del Toro's Shape of Water movie, they know the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
But that doesn't mean that they actually want to go to Universal to see that.
You may be right, and in which case, just bring on the asteroid. We don't. This is some of our greatest stuff. This is our greatest pop culture stuff.
But greatest pop culture stuff doesn't mean that adolescents want to spend time in a theme park dealing with it.
If that's the case, then I'm glad that I'm a childless, middle-aged bachelor.
Well, we talked about Deadpool and Wolverine. Part of its appeal, it has to do with the contemporary expression of how people talk and how we relate to each other now. Not about 50 and 60 years ago. It's not about Old Yeller. It's not. It's something for this time.
But don't spoil the end of Old Yeller. Don't.
But I'm saying, it's something for the now time. Old Yeller, Creature of the Black Lagoon, same era.
It all translates. What's Frankenstein's monster? You got to say the monster. What is he apart from a zombie?
Right. But when you say Frankenstein's monster, that doesn't connect in the same way. If you did a Walking Dead, maybe.
Yeah, and then, look, they have a new Frankenstein's monster movie coming out. They have a new Wolfman movie coming out. But I don't know if kids are connecting those with the original old school properties. They're trying to make these new slick monster movies. You know, the Wolfman looks like it's a slick slasher film. It's just got a guy who turns into a wolf, but it's not the story of the Wolfman of old. So there is a disconnect. And in reading this press releases are supposed to be exciting and thrilling and make me say, you know what? Let me look at those passes. I heard everything that Mo said, and I'm like, nope.
And if he's not interested and he knows that his kids aren't interested, he's the one who's got to take them. He's the one who's got to pay for the tickets. He's the one who has to have some sort of emotional connection or desire to go. There's no reason for us to go to Disneyland unless we, the parents, are going to get something out of it as well.
No. And the way Tuala's been cracking down on ranch dressings, he's not going to be shelling out money for a theme park if nobody's 100% into it.
He watches his pennies.
I promise you this. You start shelling out ranch dressing at Universal theme park here, you're fired. That's what happens to you. You're giving out ranch dressing without people paying for it, you're fired.
Well, I'll tell you, if there's one thing Victor von Frankenstein is known for, Victor Frankenstein, it's saying the rules are the rules. So, I mean,
Victor Frankenstein.
You can't mess around with the rules.
It's Later with Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And I saw this story today and I said, this is perfect for Later with Mo Kelly because it applies to everyone on this show tonight. Every single person. And we're part of the growing number of adults who are buying toys for ourselves, reclaiming memories from our childhoods, and showing off our fandom on our desks and shelves at home in our office. Some of us have even managed to cash in on our obsessions, reselling them as collector's items, building up followings online because of them. And toy companies, including Mattel, Lego, Hasbro, and others, have taken note of the rise of customers like us, and they've termed us as kidults, KIDULTS, combination of kid adults. And these companies are making products specifically with Mark Ronner, Mo Kelly, Tuala Sharp, Stefan, who doesn't have a last name, in mind. Thinking about us, Mattel President and Chief Commercial Officer Steve Totsky said that while the company has long counted adults among fans of its major brands, such as Hot Wheels and Barbie, sales to adults have grown over the last few years. Depending on the brand, he said adult collectors can account for up to 25% of sales. Not a week goes by, or maybe not a month goes by, in which Mark Ronner doesn't come by my desk and say, hey, Mo, did you see what I just got online? Either a collector's item or something which harkens back to his childhood. Tuala Sharp, the exact same. He will find the tualest toy or action figure that he'll want to add to his collection. I'm more like Tuala gave me the Rock'em Sock'em robots.
Yes.
For Christmas, I have those. There's certain items around my house which are reminiscent of my childhood. Of course, all the media I consume usually is direct homage to my childhood. Mm-hmm. That's where they get the money from me. I'm surprised that they're actually talking about this like it's a new thing, because as far as I was concerned, the cottage industry of kidults has been around for quite some time. You look at how Comic-Con has grown and how a large portion of Comic-Con just has to do with the collectible items which they're selling in the middle of the floor.
Oh, yeah. No, most of what's happening right now at New York Comic-Con, which is taking place for adults. I have, in the last, I'm going to say 10 Comic-Cons, I've gone to, the average age there is, I'd say, 25, 30 years old. Period. And most of us are there to get our hands on these exclusives, these collectibles, these limited edition Comic-Con releases to add to our stash, our shelf, our show-off space. And that's just where it is. I think it's not just Mattel, it's every company out there, but it's also companies that are investing in retro things, retro handheld games, retro board games. The Rock'em Sock'em Robot, that's something that was re-released in its exact same form. They didn't update it. They didn't make it weird.
Same thing.
It's the exact same thing, same functionality. They just said, let's use some more sturdy materials. But this is where we're at now.
During the pandemic, toy companies saw sales surge as people stuck at home look for activities to do. In the 12 months ending of June 2024, U.S. adults tallied more than $7 billion in toy purchases. $7 billion in the last 12 months leading up to June of this year. Talking about Pokemon, Star Wars, Lego Star Wars sets, Funko Pop, and more. And from January to April of this year, adults bought more toys than any other age group, including preschoolers. In other words, bought for us, not for other people, not for kids.
You remember when we had Joe Namath on the program?
I do remember. It was
at Comic-Con.
Yep.
And he joined the program to reintroduce the Mego line of action figures and all the licensing that they had. Why? Because adult collectors were going back and reminiscing and saying, man, I wish I could find, man, I got to go on eBay and look for this. Many of these toy companies are going back and getting licenses from past toy lines and just bringing them back. There's this toy line called Super 7, which is re-releasing all types of old toys, Thundercats, G.I. Joe, all type of things in this modern, pristine condition, made exactly for a collector. This is where we're at. And it's big business.
Roughly 43% of adults in the United States bought a toy for themselves in the past year. 43% of adults. That's, I don't know, maybe 100 million people. Beyond that, some of the top reasons adults said they bought toys were for socialization, enjoyment, and collecting. Others said they purchased toys to escape from reality, display in their homes, or as investments. I'm more display. I don't collect to hopefully resell one day. There's just some things like, oh yeah, I remember that from my childhood. I would love to be able to find that again. That's my motivation. You had a huge comic book collection that you probably could have sold at one point.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And then that day,
I'm sorry,
that individual, yeah, absolutely. I had much worse to say. Decided to go into my storage unit and pilfer. And to this day, I wish a pox upon them and anyone having their same gene line.
One day, I think you're going to get your chance.
One day. I actually thought about taking up
You'll find some of your
voodoo
stuff on like eBay or something and be able to trace it back to that person.
I hope so, because I thought about taking up voodoo. I really did. No, I did.
Put a root on them?
Yeah, I thought about taking a voodoo, putting a root on them, and bringing the downfall of them and their kin.
You wouldn't be wrong for doing it. You would not be wrong. But I don't know about you, but I've been on Instagram and I'm getting into what they call die-cast racing, where they have these Hot Wheel races, Hot Wheel cars on these plastic tracks, and they narrate them like it's a real race, like a sports announcer. It's great entertainment. Let me shout out to Tiny Tracks.
I don't follow that one, but I follow another one, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
They're like Racer Band, We Race things. They're all, it's like a cottage industry.
And they're so good with the tracks.
Yes.
Because it all has to be downhill, obviously.
It's all gravity.
And they got the loops, they got the sharp turns, and then you make a bet, a fun bet, like the ones I watch, they use like cartoon characters, so it'll be like Batman versus Mario from Mario Brothers, and it like place your bets, and then you see who's going to win, and then if there's like a spin out, put it in slow motion.
Yes,
it's so awesome. I know exactly what that is.
This is the best part of Instagram. Yeah, look it up, Swallow. I think
I see it. Yeah, it's Tiny Tracks.
Tiny Tracks.
This looks awesome.
It's great, and he does a new one every single day. It's like I wake up and I go straight to his page. And if he's listening right now, I think he's Southern California based. I would love to shout him out and have him come on the show.
This is
it's great. But you got to listen with the sound up because they have the whole sports play-by-play aspect of it. They're calling the race. It's great stuff. But yeah, there's a whole world out there for kids like us who never want to grow up and still want to hold on to some aspects of our childhood. And the toys are the way to do it. It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640, live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And last segment, we were talking about how toy companies have really amped up their game in creating products and marketing specifically to adults. People like Twala Sharp, people like me, people like Stefan and Mark Ronner, who will spend money on toys not just for the kids, but for ourselves. Sometimes it connects us to our childhood. Sometimes it's just an easy way to entertain ourselves. It's like, for example, during the pandemic, and I know we all can remember it, we didn't have any live sports, or for a portion of the pandemic because the leagues had shut down until they figured out how they could continue. And all of a sudden, online popped up these sites, websites, YouTube channels of what is called die-cast racing. You had marble racing. There were sports of a different kind. And there was this one particular channel that I fell in love with. And if you know the person, I want to reach out to him so I can get him on the show. And it's Tiny Track Cars. The YouTube channel is Tiny Track Cars. And on Instagram, it's at Tiny Track Cars. And he will have these gravity-based die-cast racing, and he has this wall of hundreds and hundreds of Hot Wheels cars that he'll pair up, and there'll be cars from maybe the Fast and Furious franchise, or it'll be from the Cars movie franchise, and they'll do these races, and oftentimes he'll narrate them as if they're live races. It's really entertaining, really funny, stupid, it's silly, it's all those things, and he has these very inventive camera angles where if a car goes off the track and runs over a person, he'll offer commentary on that. But there are a lot of similar YouTube channels and Instagram pages, but Tiny Track Cars is probably my favorite, and I would consider the best.
I really like looking at some of the videos. I just went on Instagram to look at, and I definitely want to check out the YouTube page because the wall of cars is amazing, but the camera work for these races and the angles that he's getting and the process of selecting cars to go against each other. This is someone who has invested a lot of time into making something out of nothing. I love it.
The videos are clearly time consuming. He has multi-camera looks at this with slow motion.
Yeah.
There's a lot of video production which is going into it. He's doing an audio track for it as well. And he's doing these elaborate tournaments of some 64 cars going down to just one. And it's something that he'll do a video a day, and he's getting hundreds of thousands of views.
Yeah. I wonder, is he sponsored by one of these companies?
Some are. Some are. Okay. There was one channel I saw, I think it's Boy Racer Ben, or We Race Things. It's one of those, but he was sponsored by Dude Wipes, the bathroom wipes.
That's
serious.
Cool. No, cool,
but he's to Twala's point, making something out of nothing.
And I was just gonna say, and yeah, the production is no small feat. He's not half-assing anything.
No, it's not just one person with their camera phone just following around. No, these are 3 or 4 different angles that he's simultaneously recording these, then going back in post-production using effects and everything. It's a person with too much time who has created something that we all can enjoy. If you are from that era of using Hot Wheels or Matchbox cars, is Matchbox even still in business?
I think so.
They are, because I think when Fast and Furious just took off the way it did, they started doing those cars.
Uh-huh.
And any car that's really featured in a movie, now it's showed, like, let's say James Bond's Aston Martin for that particular movie, that's been made into a diecast.
The only reason I say this is because I see Hot Wheels cars. They sell them in grocery stores. That's when I usually see them.
Yep.
I don't see Matchbox anywhere.
Not as often, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Because sometimes they're right next to the candy.
They're
Hot
always,
Wheels.
yeah.
But yeah, Matchbox, I think they are harder to come by.
I got to give it to Hot Wheels because I thought that would have been something that would have died out with us in our generation. We were the kids who got on the floor and played with the Hot Wheels. And I don't think that was going to be continued from the Gen X to the Gen Y to the millennials or whatever, Gen Z, whatever they're called today.
No, Matchbox. I'm looking at Matchbox is through Mattel, and they have.
Oh, they have them both?
Yeah, they have.
Oh, wow.
Hot Wheels,
okay.
and they have Matchbox, and it's all through the same brand now. And I can see how one couldn't survive with the other, shrinking interests. So you just bring them all together. Looks like Matchbox has sturdier, more realistic vehicles, while Hot Wheels has like fantasy cars and things like that.
See, I think I need to go to the Hot Wheels site and buy me some cars tonight, just because. Just because. I'm grown. I'm allowed to do it. Used to be my mother wouldn't allow me to. It's like, no, you have enough. Because I had boxes of Hot Wheels, boxes and boxes. They're still at my mother's house somewhere. But,
And did you ever leave him out by accident? Your dad stepped on him?
Oh, absolutely. And he kicked my ass each time. Come move your nana out this that floor.
That's hilarious.
Oh, my parents, very, very profane. Every sentence had a cuss word in it. They were like verbs, adverbs, cuss verbs. Every single sentence. It was really, and you didn't know how vulgar they were until you got outside and you tried to use some of those words, and you got in trouble for using the words that they used in the house. Because when I was a kid, how was I supposed to know what was profanity versus just regular speech?
Hey, you know what? Speaking of profanity and being angered and fired up, young Foosh, when I walked out of the studio after Mark attacked me and attacked my character, calling me the Hitler of business or whatever weird thing he said.
That's so wrong.
Foosh was actually even more fired up than I was. He had great points. I'm like, Foosh, why you say anything? He said, well, you guys were all in passion and embroiled in this conversation.
Oh, going back to Facebook?
Yes, but Foosh actually had one of the most salient points to make.
We never did talk about how much these people are actually making. Because if you're working at a place like Facebook, Google, Apple, you're not making minimum wage. You're making a decent amount. Plus the fact that you get to say you work at Facebook. So him giving them that extra thing, he didn't have to do that, because we all know they can afford it. But he decided to just be nice and do it. So when you do misuse it in that way, it is disrespectful.
Another authoritarian on the staff. Well, I think we need some Hot Wheels tracks to whip each other with right now.
Hey, I've been whipped with a Hot Wheels track. Okay?
Oh, well, yeah, we all were back in the day. I don't think they're used quite as much for childhood discipline these days, are they?
Well, because the law gets in the way. They kept changing the laws, talking about it was child abuse. It's like, get out of here.
But I think we 4 adult men need Hot Wheels tracks to whip each other with in the office. Here.
Well, that sounds weird. That sounds really weird. You got to make it weird.
Well,
okay?
it didn't get weird until you said that just then.
You said 4 men in the office whipping each other. That's weird.
Well, I didn't say without pants or anything like that. Jesus.
Why would that even be in the conversation?
Can we please change news anchors? Where did Brigitte go?
Oh,
Where did she go?
Look at the time.
Where did she go? Brigitte, come back! KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Untangling the mess until it makes sense.
KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere.